do you have the Aztecs right now in your bracket?
Yeah, next bracket comes out tomorrow for the Athletic, and right now I've got them as a number 6 seed. I think there's a possibility they could still move up from that. But that puts them at like 23rd, I think, on my seed line. So right about where you probably have them in some of your metrics and things like that, and even some of the human bowls. So I think that's a pretty good spot for them. I've also got Colorado State as a number 6 seed, and potentially Utah State moving up if Florida Atlantic loses tonight and they are down big at halftime.
So, so the Mountain West, people have been talking about this. They got 4 teams in the tournament last year. They got 4 teams in the year before. Of course, San Diego State was the team to break through, first Mountain West team ever to get to a Final Four, and they ended up in a national championship game. The metrics for this league are really good. One of the better metrics in the country, including power leagues. What's reasonable here? I mean, 4, 5 more. What do you think?
I'll tell you this: before Boise lost to UNLV earlier this week, I had 6 teams.
Wow.
Which is pretty wild. And, I wouldn't project that's where it would end up. But just when you looked at the metrics, I think, that was kind of a bad loss for Boise, although, he's not bad. It was at home, so it was a quad 3 loss. But you've got 4 teams in the top 28 of the net. You got Nevada, who's sitting there at 45th. And then Boise just a bit outside at 54. But Boise has 3 quad 1 wins, 3 wins in quad 2. So that's 6 total. And that's pretty good. And they played a really good schedule, the top 50 schedule. Had decent wins out of conference. And of course, they beat Colorado State. They won at Nevada. So that UNLV loss was a little tricky, but they still got time to make it up, because the great thing about the Mountain West is there's all kinds of quad 1 opportunities in the league, which didn't used to be the case.
So Brian Bennett is with us right now. He covers college hoops and bracketology for The Athletic. We'll have a brand new bracket coming out tomorrow. We're less than 2 months now from Selection Sunday. In your opinion, Brian, what's better for the Mountain West? Is it preferred to have one team emerge, so to speak? Let's say someone has a lot of success against this upper echelon and goes 15-3 in the league and secures like a number 3 or number 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, but in the process maybe knocks another team out. Is that better overall for the league, or is it preferred to get 5 or 6 teams in, but everyone's got a comparable seed, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11?
Yeah, I think you want someone at the top who can legitimately make a Final Four, like a San Diego State last year. So you want that one powerful team, I think. I'm not sure that team exists in the Mountain West this year. It could, but we're just not sure at this point. But then I think you want multiple teams to get in and to win a game at least. The one thing the Mountain West lacks at this point is success in the tournament outside of San Diego State. They've really been, of course, the flag carrier for the league. Obviously, what they did last year and some things they've done in the past. But Boise State's never won a tournament game. Utah State had some chances, couldn't get it done. Colorado State had some disappointment a couple years ago. So you need those teams to get in and do some things in the tournament, and then that brings even more attention to your league. Not only that, but all those NCAA tournament units, which translate into millions and millions of dollars for the conference.
No doubt about it. All right, let's talk about the West in general. I want to say Mark Few, every year he's been at Gonzaga. I want to say this is accurate. He's been in the NCAA tournament. Yep. Will he be able to get his team to the NCAA tournament without winning the WCC auto bid?
It's possible, but I think they're going to have to win at Kentucky. They play there February 10th.
Right.
That's really their last kind of statement game. And they haven't won any quad 1 games. They'll get some quad 1 opportunities against St. Mary's, against San Francisco, but I don't think that's going to move the needle, even if they sweep St. Mary's, say, and sweep San Francisco. I think San Francisco would drop. So I think it would still be people will look at them a little bit skeptically. Now, it always depends on what's going on in the rest of the country, right? If other teams tank. But right now I have them out. And I think they're probably going to need to win the WCC unless they can pull off that win in Lexington against a very good Kentucky team.
What about the Pac-12? There's been a lot of talk about Arizona, a lot of local talk about Arizona because Keyshawn Johnson, who was a terrific player at San Diego State, transferred over there. They obviously at one point maybe were number 1 in the country. I mean, they've had some really good results, but they've had some interesting losses on the road in the Pac-12 as well. What does the Pac-12 look like outside of Arizona? And is Arizona in a position where they could secure a 1 or 2 seed, or is that outside the realm of possibility?
So I still have them on the number 1 line. I know a lot of people have dropped them to a 2, but I think just the wins they got early in the season, like a beating Duke on the road. That's still one of the best wins in the country. Beating Wisconsin. Their metrics are fantastic. The third in KenPom, third in BPI. They are third in the net. So all that stuff usually translates to a number one seed. So I still have them there. The rest of the league is a lot weaker than I think we expected it to be. Mostly because I think a lot of people thought USC was going to be good. They have just really not panned out. They're 8-10. They've got a bunch of injuries. And then UCLA has been a complete tire fire. I think we thought that, they may struggle with all the freshmen, but boy, it's just been a total disaster. It turned it around a little bit in the last week, but they have no chance of sniffing the NCAA tournament. So that when your teams that are expected to be good kind of flame out like that, it really puts a lot of pressure on the others. I think Utah is in. Colorado's got a shot. Oregon's playing better and is getting some guys back. But right now we have 3 teams in, with Colorado being really the only one under consideration outside that group right now.
Brian, before you go, just back to San Diego State, obviously there's some teams at the top that have only lost, maybe 1 or 2 games all season. But from a clean resume perspective, is San Diego State right there? Because their 3 losses are road quad 1 losses. BYU, Grand Canyon, and New Mexico this past weekend. What will that ultimately mean to the committee if they do, quote unquote, keep it clean and avoid anything outside of a quad 1 loss?
I mean, it's always good. Those quad 3 and quad 4 losses always kind of knock you down. Sometimes it can knock you down a whole C line. But I always say you can't bad loss your way into the tournament, and you can't bad loss your way. Good loss is what I should have said. You can't good loss your way into the tournament or good loss your way into a high seed. And so they played a good schedule, which helps the most. That strength of schedule is always really impressive. But what the committee's really looking for are those high quality wins. And right now, San Diego State doesn't really have them. I mean, part of it's not their fault. St. Mary's got off to a slow start. They're starting to pick it up. That win is looking better and better. And of course, they hammered them by 25 points or something like that. The Gonzaga win's great, but we just talked about Gonzaga's having its worst year in 27 years, maybe. Those things that maybe hold them back a little bit from those upper seed echelons, unless they go on a run here in the Mountain West and really start to pile up more and more of these quality wins, because in non-conference, they just didn't get the one that really makes you go, wow, that was a great win.
One more before you go, because there's a lot of Aztec fans that I notice take particular interest into FAU results. You talked about Florida Atlantic earlier.
Yeah.
They're trailing right now in the second half. We'll see if they win or not against Wichita State. How do you compare the resumes right now of Florida Atlantic? Where would you have them seated? They've got good wins. They have bad losses compared to San Diego State, a team that has no bad losses, but maybe doesn't have the same level of marquee win like Arizona on a neutral, for example, that FAU has.
Yeah, I mean, Florida Atlantic's one of the weirdest teams in the country, one of the weirdest resumes. I have them actually on the same line as San Diego State, 2 spots behind them, I believe, on the 6th line. But they will drop tonight if they lose this game, and they're down double digits at halftime. But yeah, you mentioned they beat Arizona in Las Vegas, which is basically a home game for Arizona. They beat Texas A&M. They've had some good wins, but then they lose to Charlotte, lose to Florida Gulf Coast, lose to Bryant, and they may lose to a Wichita team that comes in 145 in the net at home. So I think if you looked at this resume and you just saw Florida Atlantic, you didn't know anything about them, you'd probably knock them down even more than they are. But I think there's a little bit of respect that the committee just has to have, knowing that this team is basically the same team that went to the Final Four last year. So yeah, it's going to be a really tricky scenario of where they're seated. I can't really remember a situation like this where you've had a mid-major coming off a Final Four run with some great wins and some really weird losses. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that team or where they're going to be seated. So right now I've kind of got them in that 6-7 range.
Great stuff, Brian. I look forward to seeing, again, your newest iteration of the bracket tomorrow. You're doing this every Friday, essentially, from now until Selection Sunday, and you have more as we get closer?
We go every Friday, and then once we get to championship week, conference tournaments, we'll go every day.
Awesome. We'll check it out, Brian. We appreciate it. Brian Bennett at The Athletic. Thanks for taking time for San Diegans.
Anytime. Thanks for having me.
All right. Jim, are you still here?
What?
So that's good. That was just good for me. I needed to get it out of my system.
No,
there's certain things you need to do.
Yeah, I know. And
you know what I mean?
And thinking about it, I push back on bracketology guests this far out, but
sure.
At the same time, if it's going to give me a nice little
10 minutes off,
10 minutes break here,
right.
I'm not complaining about that.
Jim loves the NCAA tournament. What do you got, Brian?
As I say, my favorite part was after Jim asked his one question.
He's like, I'm out.
He practically looked at the camera and did the mic drop gesture.
I'm
It's like,
done. I'm
there we
done.
go.
His question
I'm
was like,
done.
San Diego State, what do you think?
Yeah, what do you
And
got?
okay.
San Diego State?
And then
What do you have
Jim
them seated?
shuts up for 10 minutes. Now, what Jim loves about the NCAA tournament, I don't blame him. We are the exclusive San Diego home of Westwood One's NCAA tournament coverage. Plus, we would have live and local San Diego State games, assuming they're in the NCAA tournament like we did a year ago in all these previous seasons. So what that means is the NCAA tournament happens to overlap with John and Jim.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. So that might mean that Jim gets a couple of extra days off in March and April. Are you going to be
man.
okay with that? Missing a Thursday or Friday, having a long weekend that time of year?
Who do I talk to about that?
Program director, potentially? You could talk to?
Who's that?
That's me. You could talk to me about
That's
that.
nobody.
You could talk to me about
Yeah.
that.
Well, we have no one to talk to about it. So I'll be okay with just taking maybe a couple days off there to watch the tournament. And
you
I
may
might
need a couple
it.
days.
Yeah.
You've been working 3 hours a day for weeks now.
Really, it's tough out here, guys.
I found that to be, again, very soothing for me, hopefully for our listeners as well. He has the Aztecs. Now, can I push back?
I hate a bracketology.
Can I push back? Again, we'll see what happens this weekend.
Go push back all you want.
I mean, they're 15-3 with no bad losses. He's got them as a 6 seed. I tend to think more 5. Now, there's a lot of basketball to be played. It's not a reason to get upset, I wouldn't think, at this point. But I think the Aztecs' resume is a lot better than Florida Atlantic's.
Here's where I potentially might agree with them.
Okay.
As of right now, what is their best road win of the year?
Gonzaga.
Okay. And how, besides Gonzaga, which is now, as he said, probably the worst Gonzaga team in over 20 years.
Yeah, but that's not, they're still very good. It's still a quad 1 road win.
Right. If you only have one quad 1 road win, is that good enough to be a 5 seed?
I don't know. Well, no, but there's still probably 5 or 6 quad 1 road opportunities.
I don't know. I'm not saying
But to
that
this
they're-
point, is it enough? I would say yes.
So
To
okay,
this point.
To this
yeah.
point.
Yeah.
And how many
There's
quad,
very few teams that have multiple quad 1 road wins.
but how many quad 1 road games have they played?
San Diego State?
Yeah.
They are 1-3 in quad 1 road games, but those are the hardest games you're going to play.
I know.
There's a lot of teams that are like
They're
0-2.
If they were 2-2, then I'd be like, yeah, 5 seed.
Okay.
1-3, I can understand 6, nothing lower than that.
Okay. Maybe you should start your own page.
No.
You have strong opinions here. I like it. You could Jim's bracketology page,
I'm just
like
giving
Jim's
you-
back page. No? You do
6:00
it every day at 5:45.
every day at 6:02.
At 6:02. I
Yeah.
like it.